What happens when a young girl, full of life and dreams, is left in the care of someone trusted, only to face the worst kind of betrayal? This is the heartbreaking story of Sylvia Likens, a case so disturbing that it still shocks people even today. Sylvia Marie Likens was born on January 3, 1949, in Lebanon, Indiana. She was the third of 5 children in a large, lively family. Her parents, Lester and Betty Likens, worked with traveling carnivals, selling candy, running games, and trying to make a living wherever they could. Because of their work, Sylvia and her siblings often moved around and didn't always get to stay in one place long enough to make close friends or settle into a steady routine. Despite this unstable life, Sylvia was known for her sweet and gentle nature. She was a caring sister and loved to help out wherever she could. Sylvia was especially close to her younger sister Jenny, who had polio and had to wear a leg brace. Sylvia would often help Jenny walk and stand up for her when other kids teased her. Jenny depended on Sylvia not just for physical help, but also for emotional support. People who knew them said that Sylvia always looked out for Jenny like a second mother. Even though Sylvia was only a teenager, she showed maturity and kindness far beyond her years. By 1965, Sylvia was 16 years old and dreaming of a future where she could have a normal teenage life. She loved going to school and especially enjoyed English class and art. Sylvia liked roller skating and spent her free time gliding around her neighborhood. She was shy but polite and always tried to keep the peace in her family. She wasn't the type to talk back or get into trouble, and her teachers described her as well-behaved and respectful. In the summer of 1965, Sylvia's parents faced a difficult decision. They were going to travel to the East Coast to work with the carnival, but they couldn't take Sylvia and Jenny with them. Lester and Betty worried about their daughter's safety on the road and decided it would be better for the girls to stay in Indianapolis for a while. On July 3, 1965, they arranged for Sylvia and Jenny to live with Gertrude Banaszewski, a woman they had met through Sylvia's friends Paula and Stephanie. Gertrude was a single mother with 7 children of her own. She lived in a worn-down house at 3850 East New York Street. She seemed friendly enough at first, offering to take care of Sylvia and Jenny for $20 a week. Lester and Betty believed this arrangement would give their daughters stability, a chance to attend the same school for a while, and a safe place to stay until they returned. Sylvia and Jenny moved in on July 4th, 1965, a day most Americans celebrated with fireworks and family gatherings. For Sylvia, it was the start of a new chapter, one she hoped would be filled with friends, fun, and normal teenage experiences. Sylvia did her best to adjust to her new surroundings. She helped around the house, did chores without complaint, and tried to get along with Gertrude's children. She still looked after Jenny every day, making sure her sister felt safe and supported. Neighbors saw the girls outside playing and thought everything was normal. Sylvia would often chat with other kids and tell them about her love for roller skating and her hopes of maybe working in a beauty salon one day. But even during these early weeks, Sylvia missed her parents deeply. She wrote letters home, telling them about her days and how she was helping around the house. She tried to stay positive in her letters, not wanting her parents to worry while they were working hard on the road. Sylvia believed that if she just kept doing her best, things would work out. She held on to her dreams of finishing school and one day having a family of her own. As time passed, Sylvia began to notice that Gertrude's mood would change quickly. One moment she would be calm, and the next she would start yelling at her own children or at Sylvia and Jenny. Despite this, Sylvia kept trying to stay out of trouble. She focused on protecting Jenny and staying hopeful that their parents would return soon to bring them back home. On the outside, Sylvia appeared to be a normal, happy teenage girl, but inside, she was carrying the weight of caring for her sister, missing her parents, and adjusting to a new and unpredictable home. She tried to stay strong for Jenny, holding her hand and whispering that everything would be okay. By September 1965, Sylvia's bright spirit was still shining. even as cracks were beginning to show in her world. Her love for Jenny and her quiet strength defined her. She was a girl full of potential, dreams, and kindness. A teenager who wanted the same simple joys as anyone else her age. When Sylvia and Jenny first moved into Gertrude Banaszewski's house on July 4, 1965, they tried their best to fit in. Sylvia, always gentle and polite, helped with chores, washed dishes, and looked after Jenny as she always did. But as the weeks went by, things inside the house began to change in ways no one outside could imagine. By late July 1965, Sylvia started to notice that Gertrude was becoming more strict and moody. Gertrude was struggling financially, especially when Sylvia's parents' payments came late. The small delays in the $20 weekly payments caused Gertrude to grow frustrated. Instead of directing her anger at the situation, she began to take it out on Sylvia. Gertrude started blaming Sylvia for small things, accusing her of lying or acting badly, even when she hadn't done anything wrong. At first, it was just harsh words and small punishments, like refusing to let Sylvia eat dinner or making her stand in a corner. Sylvia, who was not used to conflict, did what she could to avoid upsetting Gertrude. She stayed quiet, did extra chores, and tried to be invisible when Gertrude was upset. But Gertrude's mood swings became more severe with each passing day. By August 1965, Gertrude began involving her own children in scolding Sylvia. Gertrude's daughter Paula, who was 17 at the time, started following her mother's lead and acted cruelly towards Sylvia. Paula spread rumors about Sylvia at school, telling classmates that Sylvia was causing trouble in the house. Meanwhile, Gertrude encouraged her children and even neighborhood kids to see Sylvia as someone to pick on. During this time, Sylvia's sister Jenny was forced to watch. Because of her leg brace, Jenny felt helpless and couldn't step in to protect her sister. Sylvia did her best to comfort Jenny at night, telling her that their parents would come back soon and that everything would be okay. In reality, Sylvia was beginning to lose hope as the situation became worse each day. On one occasion, in early September 1965, Sylvia innocently mentioned to Gertrude's daughters that she had once gone to a skating rink and had a boyfriend who gave her a soda. This simple comment was twisted by Gertrude, who began calling Sylvia dirty and accusing her of being bad. Gertrude's false accusations grew more severe, and she convinced others around her that Sylvia deserved to be punished. At school, Sylvia tried to keep up her normal life, but she started showing signs of distress. Teachers and classmates noticed she was quieter and looked thinner and more tired. Still, no one took action or asked serious questions. Sylvia, scared of making things worse, never told anyone what was happening at home. By mid-September 1965, Gertrude's house had turned into a place where Sylvia was treated cruelly on a daily basis. Gertrude began refusing Sylvia food for long periods and encouraged the children to humiliate her. Neighbors who visited the house sometimes saw Sylvia looking weak or upset, but Gertrude would always give excuses, saying Sylvia was a troublemaker or had chosen not to eat. Gertrude's control over the children in the house and even the neighborhood kids grew stronger. Kids were told lies and began treating Sylvia as if she was less than human. Gertrude's influence was so strong that even other adults didn't question her. In late September 1965, Sylvia's situation became worse when she was blamed for things she didn't do. Gertrude claimed Sylvia was spreading lies about her daughters and ruining their reputation at school. Paula and Stephanie, instead of defending Sylvia, joined in and hurt her feelings further. Sylvia wrote letters to her parents during these weeks, but she never revealed the full truth. She might have felt ashamed or feared punishment if she spoke up. Sylvia always tried to protect Jenny, and she may have believed that staying quiet would keep her sister safe too. By October 1965, Sylvia had become weak and afraid, but her spirit had not completely broken. She still tried to comfort Jenny and sometimes attempted to stay cheerful in small ways. She clung to the hope that her parents would return and that she and Jenny would leave the nightmare behind. People in the community missed many signs. They heard noises from the house, saw Sylvia looking thin and tired, but no one stepped in. In 1965, people believed in minding their own business, and this allowed the cruelty to continue behind closed doors. The days kept getting darker for Sylvia as Gertrude's anger and the children's involvement grew. Each moment of cruelty chipped away at Sylvia's strength. By this point, she had gone from being a bright, kind-hearted teenager to a girl who was constantly scared and isolated. This period, from August to October 1965, was when the tension built to its highest point. Sylvia's world, once full of simple dreams and sisterly love, had become a place of daily fear and hopelessness. The situation had reached a dangerous turning point, one that would soon lead to a tragic end no one could have imagined when she first arrived at Gertrude's house. By early October 1965, life inside Gertrude Banishewski's house had turned into a living nightmare for Sylvia Likens. Sylvia had gone from being a cheerful, roller-skating teenager to a weak and frightened girl who barely had the strength to stand. Each day, she hoped for a miracle, but none came. As the abuse grew worse, Gertrude started coming up with new ways to control Sylvia. On October 3rd, 1965, Gertrude falsely accused Sylvia of telling neighborhood kids that her daughters, Paula and Stephanie, were behaving badly at school. Gertrude used this as another excuse to turn everyone in the house against Sylvia even more. Instead of questioning these claims, the children believed Gertrude's words. Paula, who was pregnant at the time, became one of the most aggressive towards Sylvia. She would push Sylvia around and call her cruel names. Stephanie's boyfriend, Coy Hubbard, also joined in. He was encouraged by Gertrude to teach Sylvia a lesson and became involved in the mistreatment as well. Gertrude began isolating Sylvia completely. Sylvia was no longer allowed to attend school by mid-October 1965. She was kept at home, where she was forced to sleep in the basement. This dark, cold place became her world. Sylvia had no bed, no blanket, and no comfort except for her sister Jenny's quiet words whenever she could sneak down to see her. By October 20th, 1965, Gertrude decided to write a letter that she forced Sylvia to copy. In this letter, Sylvia had to say that she had run away and that a group of boys had hurt her. Gertrude's plan was to make it look like Sylvia chose to leave and got hurt elsewhere if anyone started asking questions. This fake letter was meant to protect Gertrude and the others from trouble. Sylvia, too weak to fight back, wrote it down as told, even though she knew it was a lie. On October 22nd, 1965, Gertrude came up with another plan. She decided Sylvia needed to be punished further, and she involved her children and even the neighborhood kids again. They used heated objects to carve words into Sylvia's stomach. Sylvia fainted from the pain, but was given no medical help. Instead, Gertrude forced her to stand and mocked her. Even at this point, Sylvia didn't give up completely. She whispered to Jenny whenever she got the chance, "We have to hold on. Mom and Dad will come get us." Jenny wanted to help, but she was too scared and too physically limited because of her leg brace. Gertrude threatened her, saying that if Jenny tried to help, she would be next. Jenny was torn between her love for her sister and her fear of being hurt. On October 23rd, 1965, Sylvia tried to escape. Even though she could barely walk, she made it up the basement stairs and tried to run toward the front door. However, Gertrude caught her before she could get out. Sylvia was pulled back into the house, and this moment crushed her last bit of hope. She realized that no one was coming to save her, and that even trying to escape was impossible now. After this, Sylvia's health quickly declined. She was so weak that she could not eat or drink without help. She was often left alone in the basement, shivering and in pain. Even when other children from the neighborhood came into the house, they didn't question her condition. Many believed Gertrude's lies that Sylvia was bad and deserved what was happening. On October 25th, 1965, Sylvia lost the ability to speak clearly. She tried to whisper to Jenny, "I love you," but her voice was faint. "Jenny, filled with fear and sadness, held her sister's hand and promised not to leave her side. By the evening of October 25th, Sylvia was no longer able to move. Her body was too weak to even sit up. During these final hours, Gertrude forced Sylvia to take a bath, which was cold and painful. Afterward, Sylvia was brought back to the basement, where she lay on a thin, dirty mattress. Sylvia's final moments were filled with thoughts of home. She spoke softly about wanting to see her family again and going back to school. Even at her weakest, she held on to memories of her better days, roller skating and laughing with Jenny. The turning point of Sylvia's story was not just about the physical harm she faced, but also about the complete loss of hope, her trust in adults, her dreams of seeing her parents again, and her strong spirit were slowly taken away. By the end of October 1965, the bright, caring girl who once protected her sister had been pushed beyond her limit. In these final days, the world outside continued as normal. Neighbors went about their lives, unaware of how close they were to a tragedy happening just a few steps away. Inside that basement, Sylvia spent her last days alone, holding on to love and memories until the very end. On October 26, 1965, Sylvia Likens reached her final day. Her body had become too weak to fight anymore, and the long weeks of pain had taken everything from her. That morning, Sylvia tried to say a few last words. She whispered about her family, saying she wanted to go home and see her daddy. Her voice was so faint that only Jenny, who stayed close, could hear her. As Sylvia lay on the dirty mattress in the basement, Gertrude Banishevsky and the others carried on as if nothing was wrong. Gertrude gave Sylvia one last bath that day, but it was not an act of care. Instead, it caused Sylvia more pain, and she couldn't even stand on her own afterward. After the bath, they left her lying on the mattress, too weak to move or speak clearly. By the afternoon, Sylvia stopped responding. Around 7:30 p.m., she took her last breath. Jenny, terrified and heartbroken, was there with her. In those final moments, Sylvia was thinking of her family and the life she had before she came to Gertrude's house on July 4th, 1965. She was only 16 years old. When Gertrude realized Sylvia had passed away, she began to act quickly to protect herself. She instructed one of the neighborhood boys to call the police from a nearby payphone. Gertrude told the police that Sylvia had run away and returned home injured. She handed them the fake letter Sylvia had been forced to write on October 20th, 1965, claiming that a group of boys had hurt her. Gertrude hoped the letter would convince them it was all an accident that happened somewhere else. However, the story fell apart almost immediately. When officers arrived at 3850 East New York Street, they were shocked by the sight of Sylvia's body. Her injuries were impossible to ignore. She was covered in bruises, burns, and cuts. The officers could see right away that her injuries were not from a single incident, but from ongoing harm over time. Jenny, finally feeling safe enough to speak, whispered to one of the officers, "Get me out of here, and I'll tell you everything." Her words opened the door to the terrible truth that had been hidden for months. Jenny told the police everything about what had happened to Sylvia, the punishments, the lack of food, and the painful games the other kids were encouraged to play. After hearing Jenny's story and seeing Sylvia's condition, the police arrested Gertrude right away. Paula, Stephanie, John, one of Gertrude's sons, Coy Hubbard, and other neighborhood kids were also taken into custody over the following hours and days. The community was stunned when they learned the details. People could not believe that something so terrible had happened right in their neighborhood, inside a house that seemed so ordinary from the outside. News spread quickly across Indianapolis on October 27th, 1965, and beyond. The story appeared in newspapers and on TV, and people everywhere were shocked and angry. Neighbors who had once visited Gertrude's home now realized they had missed signs or ignored small warnings. Many felt guilty for not stepping in sooner. An autopsy was performed soon after, and it confirmed the shocking extent of Sylvia's suffering. She had over 150 separate injuries on her body, including burns and cuts. The doctors could see that she had not been given proper food or water for days, and that she was severely underweight. These details left no doubt that she had been treated with extreme cruelty over a long period. In the months that followed, the case went to trial. The courtroom was filled with reporters and local residents, all wanting to see justice served. Jenny testified bravely, describing what she and Sylvia had gone through. Her words painted a heartbreaking picture of how Sylvia had tried to stay strong, even when she was in the most desperate condition. The trial revealed how deeply Gertrude had controlled not only her own children, but also other neighborhood kids. The stories of the children being told to join in and watch shocked everyone. The public could not understand how so many people could be involved, and no one stepped in to stop it. While Gertrude continued to claim she did not mean for things to go so far, the evidence was clear. The jury saw the truth of what Sylvia had suffered through during her last months at the house. On May 19, 1966, Gertrude was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Several of the other children and teenagers also received different sentences for their involvement. Sylvia's passing on October 26, 1965, was more than just a single day of loss. It was the tragic end of a young girl's dreams and the beginning of a story that would haunt Indiana forever. Her final words, her quiet bravery, and her love for Jenny left a deep mark on everyone who learned the truth. After Sylvia Likens took her last breath on October 26, 1965, the lives of everyone involved changed forever. The story did not end with her passing. It continued in courtrooms, in newspaper headlines, and in the hearts of people across Indiana and the entire country. The day after Sylvia was found, on October 27, 1965, Indianapolis police arrested Gertrude Banaszewski, her children Paula, Stephanie, and John, as well as neighborhood teenagers Coy Hubbard and Richard Hobbs. Neighbors gathered outside the house, shocked and speechless, as officers carried evidence out and escorted the family away. For the first time, the community saw the dark reality of what had been happening behind the worn-down walls at 3850 East New York Street. As the investigation unfolded, the public learned more horrifying details about how Sylvia had been treated. People felt betrayed that a mother figure could turn into someone so cruel, and that so many kids had followed along. Newspapers described the case as the most terrible crime ever committed in the state of Indiana, and residents struggled to understand how no one had noticed or stopped the suffering sooner. The trial began in April 1966 at the Marion County Courthouse. It quickly became one of the most talked about cases in the country. Reporters filled the courtroom every day, and the public followed each development closely. Sylvia's younger sister Jenny, only 15 at the time, bravely took the stand to describe everything she had seen. She spoke in a soft voice, but with strong determination, sharing details that made jurors and spectators alike break down in tears. Jenny's words painted a clear picture of Sylvia's kindness, her attempts to protect her, and the hopelessness that filled their final days together. During the trial, Gertrude's defense tried to argue that she had lost control and never meant to cause such harm, but the evidence was too strong. Sylvia's injuries and the testimony from Jenny and other witnesses proved that what happened to her was not an accident or a single moment of rage. It was a long period of cruelty, supported and encouraged by several people. On May 19, 1966, the jury reached its decision. Gertrude Banaszewski was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for first-degree charges. Her daughter Paula was also found guilty and given a sentence of 2 to 21 years. The neighborhood teenagers, including Coy Hubbard and Richard Hobbs, received shorter sentences as they were still minors at the time, and the court believed they were influenced by Gertrude. Even though Gertrude was given a life sentence, she was later granted parole in 1985 after serving just 20 years. Her release shocked and angered the public, especially those who had followed Sylvia's case from the start. Gertrude changed her name to Nadine Van Fossen and lived quietly in Iowa until her death in 1990. Many felt that justice had not been fully served, and Sylvia's memory became a symbol of that failure. The aftermath of Sylvia's case also changed how Indiana and many other states looked at child welfare. People realized that signs of abuse could no longer be ignored, and that minding your own business could have tragic consequences. Sylvia's story pushed for stronger child protection laws, more attention to neighbor reports, and better support for children in difficult home situations. Jenny Likens carried the pain of losing Sylvia for the rest of her life. She went to live with relatives after the trial and tried to build a new life, but the memories never truly left her. She often spoke about her sister with love, remembering her as gentle, caring, and always willing to put Jenny first. In 2001, Jenny passed away at age 54, still holding Sylvia's memory close to her heart. Over the years, Sylvia Likens has been remembered in many ways. In 2001, a memorial was dedicated to her in Indianapolis called Sylvia's Child Advocacy Center. The center helps children who have suffered from abuse and stands as a reminder of Sylvia's story. Her name lives on as a symbol of the importance of listening, caring, and protecting children who cannot protect themselves. Today, people still visit her grave at Oak Hill Cemetery in Lebanon, Indiana, leaving flowers and notes to show they remember her. Her story is shared in books, documentaries, and articles to keep her memory alive and to warn others about the dangers of ignoring the cries for help. The most important lesson from Sylvia's story is that silence can be just as harmful as active wrongdoing. When neighbors, teachers, and friends ignore signs of trouble, it allows harm to continue in the shadows. Sylvia's life, though tragically short, teaches us the power of speaking up and the importance of community responsibility. Sylvia Likens deserved a future filled with roller skating, laughter, and dreams of one day having her own family. Instead, she became a voice for every child who has ever felt alone and afraid. By telling her story, we honor her spirit and make sure she is never forgotten. In the end, Sylvia's legacy is not just a reminder of pain, but a call for kindness and protection for every child who needs it.